Imagine this. You're a homeless student in New York City. You've got a tough life, but finally, you're given a chance to experience something magical, a trip to Disney World. But when the bus shows up, you're not on it. Why? Because a teacher's daughter or someone's grandkid took your spot. Sounds outrageous, right? Well, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you is the kind of scandal that leaves you speechless. Between 2016 and 2019, 6 Department of Education employees stole your tax dollars, money meant for the most vulnerable kids in the city, and spent it on trips for their own families. Disney World, Washington, D.C., Broadway shows, resorts all on the city's dime. $66,000 alone for one trip to Disney. But that's just the beginning. The mastermind, Linda M. Wilson, a supervisor at the DOE. She was supposed to be overseeing a program to help students in temporary housing, kids living in shelters, parks, or worse. But instead, she brought her own 2 daughters along on these trips repeatedly. And it wasn't just her. She encouraged her colleagues to bring their kids too. It's like they turned a field trip into a family vacation. And they didn't stop there. When the Department of Education started catching on, do you know what Linda said to her staff? She told them to lie. What happens here stays here, she allegedly told them, like they were in some mob movie. Imagine that. You're caught stealing from homeless kids, and your first instinct is to cover it up. But here's the kicker. While these staff members were vacationing at Disney World, homeless students were left behind. Some of the children never got to go because their spots were filled by staffers' kids. In one case, a DOE educator had to beg just to let 2 of his actual students on the trip. Are you angry yet? Because it gets worse. This wasn't just a one-time thing. The DOE employees took trips all over the country. Washington, D.C., Boston, even the Frost Valley YMCA campground. But here's the twist. Many of these so-called educational trips were a fraud. For example, Wilson organized a trip to Syracuse University. But instead of a campus tour, they just had lunch there, then drove to Niagara Falls for a mini vacation. And they didn't even try to hide it. Now, here's where it all starts to unravel. A whistleblower came forward. That's how investigators found out the DOE employees were forging permission slips, making it look like homeless kids were going on these trips, when in reality, the names were just being used to fill paperwork. They even faked parent signatures. So not only were these kids robbed of their trips, but their names were being used for a scam. You might be wondering, where's the justice? Well, hold on to your seat because the consequences are going to shock you. After this investigation wrapped up, the Special Commissioner of Investigation recommended firing all 6 of the employees involved. And guess what? They were. But here's the real kicker. Ms. Honjack, one of the staffers, got away with paying a fine of just $1,200. Yes, you heard that right, $1. $200 for taking her daughters to a Broadway show and on a trip to Washington, D.C., spots that were supposed to go to homeless kids. $1,200. That's nothing compared to what these trips cost. And Jack, she blamed Linda Wilson for encouraging her to bring her kids. Like that excuses it. So what happened to Linda Wilson? Well, she wasn't fired. No, she retired. Retired. She denies everything. Calls the investigation a witch hunt. Says her daughters never went on these trips. But the evidence? It says otherwise. Now you're probably asking, what about the restitution? Are they paying it back? The Department of Education hasn't said a word about that. They're keeping quiet. But we do know this. All 6 employees are gone from the NYC public school system. But let me ask you, does that feel like enough? Should they face criminal charges? Shouldn't they have to pay back every penny they stole from these kids? Because after everything you've just heard, it's hard to believe justice has been served. Tell me what you think in the comments. Should they be charged? Should their punishment be harsher? And if you think this story needs to be heard, smash that like button. Subscribe for more exposés like this, and share this video with everyone you know. This was about more than just a trip to Disney World. It was about hope. It was about giving kids who need it most, a chance to dream beyond their circumstances. And it was stolen from them. So let's hold people accountable. Until next time, stay informed.